Good afternoon and welcome to today's knowledge session on body, mind, and soul, rejuvenation and spiritual tourism in the age of COVID-19, presented by the Nepal Tourism Board and the Pacific Asia Travel Association, or otherwise known as PATA. Welcome to today's session. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Paul Prankan. I am the Director of Communications and External Affairs at PATA. This is a live webinar, which is also being streamed on our Facebook page. So please do invite your friends to either come watch it here or watch it on our Facebook page, or even share it from our Facebook page. Before we get to our session, excuse me, just had a couple of notes to share with everyone before we start. As you can see during the panel discussions, you can now you can use the chat function. You'll see at the bottom of your screen at the toolbar. Use that to introduce yourself to the other participants or just engage with other participants here. However, don't ask any questions using that function. We do have a Q&A function, so please submit all your questions using the Q&A function. I don't know if the raise hand function is available, but don't raise your hand. If you have any comments, please use the chat function. You can either have them sent directly to me or to the panelists, or if you have any questions, use the Q&A, but there's no need to raise your hand. We have some great speakers with us here today. So I'm just going to just show their picture here real quickly, who will be joining us later today. First, from the Nepal Tourism Board, we have the Senior Director of Tourism Marketing and Promotion, Ms. Nandini Lahe Thapa, who we've met earlier this week during our forum on Tuesday. Also, who will be joining us on the panel is Ms. Tasha Martin. She's the founder of Good Tourism, and also Mr. Adarsha Batari, the founder of the Zeroth Dimension. Now, before we get to our presentation from Ms. Nandini, we just have a quick video that we would like to show for you from the Nepal Tourism Board. And with that, I will pass this back to my team here to share the quick video. Wow, that was it's a great video. Actually, I wish we had that video before some of our quizzes that we've had this week. There were a lot of answers to the quizzes that we were having that were actually shown on that video. So, just gonna do this, and with that, we'd like to invite Ms. Nandini, the Senior Director of Tourism Marketing and Promotion at Nepal Tourism Board. Welcome her to today's webinar and pass it to her to present a bit about Nepal and the potential as a healing destination. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Paul. If you could just give me a second to share my screen. Oops. These technicalities.
It's all right. You can take your time. You know, the current situation has forced all of us to quickly adapt to the new normal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Well. No, not again. This always happens to me. So just a minute. Oops. Wait.
Take your time, no rush.
Okay. Oh no.
So while you're preparing, I'll just remind all the attendees, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. You can ask any questions you might
need to get help.
So while Ms. Nandini is going to get some assistance for her presentation, as I said, just if you have any questions about her presentation, she will be joining the panel. So feel free to ask it using the Q&A function. Please don't use the chat function. It's you try to use that for just interacting with each other. We have and you can also interact directly with the panelists as well, ask them questions using the Q&A function, and not just about the presentation, but anything we discussed today. You know, and also use the chat function to introduce yourself. You know, where you're from, where your business is, and how you're doing out wherever you may be. I see our good friend Shraddha is helping Miss Nandini out. Always a helpful person. Thank you so much. Okay, it looks like you're all set. Just turn your mic on and stage is yours. You're all good.
I can see good. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, great. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm really, really sorry about this technical problem that always happens. My IT guy was sitting with me the last 1 hour, and just when I needed him, he went missing. Okay, so a big welcome and namaste to everybody from Nepal. And I would really like to thank Pata for giving us this wonderful opportunity in showcasing Nepal the whole week. And the focus has been on, how Nepal could be the best destination for wellness and spiritual tourism, especially in the age of COVID-19. And all of us, you, me, the whole world, we are looking at ways to rejuvenate ourselves, body, mind, and soul. So, I do hope you enjoy our presentation, and I would like to take you through various, the different segments that we in Nepal offer, and we just hope to see you all here in the future. So let's just go to the presentation now. As we all know, humans, it is just not COVID that has isolated us now. We have been our isolation has been long before COVID. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the great, the professor who's an expert in wellness tourism, Professor Heidegger. And so he's been talking about wellness tourism and, how we could really position that and promote that in addition to all the other tourism products that every destination does. And so one of his, and I really refer to that, and I think it is so relevant in our topic today and in today's context, because, he calls today's world as the epoch of technicity, where we all have very robotic lifestyles. We have rampant consumerism, like we're just crunching numbers, looking at, okay, where can we get the, our next sort of financial experience. It's whatever, but it is so cut off from what humans are really sort of meant to do. And the personal hubris that there is so much of confusion, there is unhappiness, there is jealousy, there is depression. It's a big mess, and we are all a big mess inside ourselves. And of course, we are so rampant with the environment and with basically everything. We just don't think. We talk about being green, but we just don't think at all. So all this has really led to a lot of devastation, and the artificial communities that we have created throughout. Because if you look at social media today, the biggest high for anybody is to have so many people on Twitter, so many people following you. How many people have seen your post? And we really have lost, connection with each other on a human basis. And a very big minus for us is basically this loss of spirituality because of this focus on consumerism, or just it's kind of become a dog-eat-dog world. And so Howard, I would really like to sum up today's world is we are totally connected. We are totally connected with technology, but inside of ourselves, we are totally unconnected. So we look at Nepal as a destination to rejuvenate yourself. And of course, everybody agrees COVID has wreaked havoc on us. And we have started asking the question on who we are. Mother Nature has literally brought us to our knees. And so we're asking who we are and where are we going? How do we get where we want? And there have been losses on every level, where many people have lost loved ones, families have sort of literally broken down, and there is a huge global economic crisis with no hope or no idea of when we're going to get out of it. People are suffering from cabin fever syndrome with the lockdowns that have happened all over the world. And that has led to so much of negativity and so much of frustration, dejection and depression in people, and has led to an array of mental and emotional health issues. So a new segment that's going to come out very strongly in the new normal is going to be transformative tourism. And a visitor, whenever they choose a place, is no longer just going to be the attractions of a destination, but it's going to be, so they're going to be looking for something more. Obviously, yes, the new normal, of course, is going to be that it's going to be all the health and hygiene and sanitation protocols that a country has in place. But then they're also going to be looking at a very transcendental and a spiritually uplifting experience in a vacation. And that is where all destination should be focused. It's no longer just going to be your own tourism product. Okay, and I would like to now go into how Nepal could be the destination for everybody. And like I already mentioned, with this shift on dynamics of travel and tourism, the wellness tourism is going to be, wellness and basically rejuvenation tourism is going to be the key word in the future. And for Nepal, we are a tiny country, but of course, when you talk of a diversity, of course, we have the highest point on earth touching the sky, and then also the world's deepest gorge. And so you can imagine the diversity we have in terms of what we could offer a visitor. It is a one-stop spiritual destination with the cradle of world peace, the birthplace of Lord Buddha down south, and we have the only living goddess in the world, which is the Kumari. And as many of you already know that in Nepal, we have as many temples and monasteries as we have houses. So everywhere you go, you're always coming across a big or a small temple or a monastery. And the feeling of spirituality, the positive aura is really, really very, very strong in Nepal. And then also over the years, actually not only now, but it's been like for 30, 40 years, Nepal has really been a very, very popular destination and a very, consciously chosen destination for medicine, for medication, and also for healing centers. And you have a lot of a lot of monasteries, a lot of temples that offer courses to you, for long-term courses, short-term courses, and it's about 17% of the visitors who come to Nepal are actually coming specifically for meditation purposes and basically for a quest to find the inner self. And of course, we also are the home to very, very rare Himalayan medicinal herbs which are supplied all over the world. And of course, we are the only country with the natural Vaigara, the Yarsagumba. So now travel is going to change quite a bit, and a vacation is really going to now turn into a regenerative transformation, transformative travel. Why? Because people, apart from choosing the destination, they're also going to look at ways to detox, to sort of kind of get rid of all sort of internal baggage. And there is going to be a very strong chain where they are going to actually value personal and social transformation within themselves. They will be more respectful of the culture and the nature, and also conquer their fears. Now, how does this fit in Nepal, which is sort of always, known for adventure activities? Okay, and sometimes I always say that Nepal at times is victims of a very strong brand, which is Mount Everest. And that's why a lot of people think that Nepal is only for adventure tourism, is for the young, the sporty, and people who just want to run up and down mountains. But Nepal has so much more in terms of culture, in terms of nature, in terms of traditions. And so that's what we have to offer. But even if you come for adventure tourism, okay, literally, even if you're climbing up a mountain or you're hiking, mountain biking, you are testing your limits, and you are literally conquering your fear of death. So see, this is also transformative. Even in adventure, you have a transformative experience. I mean, you're immersing yourself in the culture, in the nature. I mean, you will learn to grow. I mean, have more respect for the people. You have more empathy, more patience. So you see, it's going to be a totally detoxifying experience. And then you move from an egocentric mindset to very, very conscious mindfulness. And that's what we offer you. And at the end of the day, you're going to be discovering this beautiful inner and outer harmony within yourself. So where do I go? Well, so now again, coming to wellness tourism, in addition to all the facets of tourism that we have, I would like to refer to, I already mentioned Heidegger, and I think he's going to be the most famous, sort of tourism expert in the future, because he talks of something, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but it's called the ringing of the fourfold. And I already pointed out, in my first slide about the epoch of technicity, where we are totally bogged down and we are so disconnected because of the technology and the basic selfish world we live in. And now, using these four folds, the earth, the sky, mortals, and divinities, this is the best way towards wellness tourism. And this is what every destination should encourage. Now, how does it work? And why I have put Nepal right in the center is because this is where I think, without boasting, I think we are really, really well placed. Everybody has the earth. We all share it. Sky, everybody has. And then we are looking at mortals, and we are looking at divinities. When we talk about divinities, we are talking about the huge spiritual healing and the number of gods and goddesses we have in every religion, especially in Nepal. We have totally an oversupply of gods. We have so many. So the entire aura is already, the feeling of spirituality, of peace, of harmony is there. And then the most important segment, again, in this is the mortals, because we as human beings are the ones who put this whole ring of the fourfold into motion. And when we say mortals, I'm talking about the people of Nepal. And I think, surprising maybe to many of you to hear this, but then for us, the people of Nepal are the mortals of Nepal are our strongest tourism product. Okay, and why? because guests are God. I want to go back a little bit in time to 2015 when we just had the earthquake. And this is 2 days after the earthquake when Mike Roberts from one of the major channels in New Zealand was here covering the devastating earthquake. And he met this lady. And this is his Twitter post from 2015. And this shows you the heart of Nepal. This poor woman has her house around her in crumbles. I mean, she has nothing left, but all she worried about was being hospitable and, offering lunch to a guest. And so that is the spirit of Nepal. And that's why I say that, in this ring of fourfold, the sky, the earth, divinities and mortals, we are really in a really good place to offer our, our visitors in the future a very, very fulfilling and rejuvenating experience. And that's the smiling people of Nepal. Everywhere you have smiles. We have so many different ethnic groups, innumerable of them, and they are one of the happiest people on earth. So again, like in my previous webinar, I had mentioned about how in this year, especially in our revival and recovery strategy, we are going to be focusing on spiritual Nepal, not in terms of religion per se, but how you could really come and rejuvenate yourself in body, mind, and soul. So that's Lumbini. That is the birthplace of Lord Buddha. It's a very, very popular destination, especially for, not only for meditation and for, attending prayer sessions and all that, but people from all over the world come in here just because, and just entering that area of Lumbini, you are literally transformed into another world where you can feel the peace and the serenity. And then, of course, it is also the abode of Lord Shiva. And then, like all our Hindu gods, the Buddhist gods, they have so many manifestations. And that's why we have so many temples and so many gods and goddesses. So there's so much happening here always. And we have temples everywhere, beautiful antique temples that are centuries old, with traditions that are centuries old. And again, even in the monasteries and the gumbas that you visit, these are the prayer wheels, and each turn, you're saying the prayer so many thousands of times. And this is something that happens every day. It's not time that people, when they pass by, they just turn these vehicles and these wheels, and our, the sounds of Nepal, in addition to the regular noises like your vehicles, the people moving around, there are always chiming bells from the temples, and always these prayer wheels and chantings going on. And so it's not only within the city limits, but up in the mountains also, there is always a lot happening. And so there is spirituality everywhere. And of course, yoga, and then we have a lot of companies, a lot of travel agencies who actually have regular packages for meditation, for yoga, for healing, and of course, custom-made packages also. And Nepal has been really very popular, and we have had a lot of Hollywood stars, and a lot of people from all over the world who really come here to rediscover themselves. So that's another yoga session happening with a beautiful backdrop of the mountains. And then we also have shamanism, we have tantric healing, and you see a lot of tourists come in for this. We have so many different schools of Buddhism and Hinduism, and so many different traditions and means of healing. So what are you going to be looking for? So in Nepal, you could experience meditation, you could experience the sacred art of yoga, Ayurveda, astrology, the traditional Tibetan healing, the yogic art healing, faith healing, shamanic healing, and so much more. So this is a place where you could really rewind, revive, restore, and totally rejuvenate yourself. And when we have, and another, I want to just sort of share a small anecdote, because especially in our, in our culture and our religions, whether it's Hindus or it is Buddhists, we have a guru, okay, a sort of a leader who sort of inducts us and guides us along our life. And whether it's a birth, it's a celebration, it's a wedding, it's a death, I mean, everywhere we need, these gurus. And so they give you a password. It's called the Guru Mantra. Okay. And so I thought to all of us, and to the whole world. Definitely with the stress and with the pain that the COVID-19 has caused, all of us need a guru mantra. And the one I would like to share with you is the SMS, which is social distancing, mask, and sanitizer. So this is going to be the global guru mantra in the terms of COVID-19. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nandini. That was an excellent presentation. I mean, I loved how you started off and saying that we were isolated even before COVID-19. You know, as much as we're connected, we're still actually internally unconnected. So let's just jump right into the panel discussion. Let me just welcome our panelists to joining us here. So we have Ms. Natasha Martin, the founder of Good Tourism, and Mr. Adarsha Bhattari. Welcome. I just want to give this opportunity just to allow you guys to introduce yourselves a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what your company is. So I'll start with Natasha. Welcome.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everybody from Cambodia. I hope you can hear me okay. Just as Miss Nandini was giving her presentation, a huge thunderstorm erupted here. So it feels like the gods saying something to me. I'm not sure what it is. But hi, everybody. I'm the founder of Good Tourism, a small consultancy that works with destinations around the world to help them understand, develop, and deliver good tourism. And it's a huge pleasure to be here with you today. I was in Nepal in January. It's the last trip I took before the world shut down, and I'm so grateful that I have those memories to carry me through this no travel period. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Darsha, welcome. You want to just explain what Zeroth dimension is and what do you do?
Hello, everyone. Namaste. The Zeroth Dimension is a youth-led organization that works around spirituality and science. How do we understand our practices and values that we have within our country? And also, how do we understand how we can share a living consciousness of our country to the world? So we look into various temples and art, and we look into different places within Nepal that can contribute toward uplifting the human consciousness and behavior. It's a youth-led group, and we are trying to understand our country, understand its history, and understand its value.
Oh, great. So then, I guess we'll start questions first then to you, Adarsha. So I mean, can you talk about maybe some of the various healing and rejuvenation possibilities available in Nepal? I mean, it seems that you do that a lot with your youth group. So what is available now for, let's say, tourists that are looking for that you would sort of recommend or point out some of these possibilities that are there?
There are numerous opportunities that we have in terms of spirituality. First of all, the most well-known thing is yoga. Yoga is very popular in Nepal, but the yoga of Nepal is also related to its nature. So we have yoga treks where people can come and go trekking in different parts of Nepal and enjoy the trekking aspect, the adventure aspect, but at the same time also embody the healing aspect. We also have different hot springs where people come to, and these are also meditative hot spring. We have solitude retreats where people can come and stay for 2 months, 3 months. There are some monasteries who offer 3-year retreats. We have different Ayurvedic centers where we offer wellness healings. Maybe it is Ayurvedic massage, or it's some ancient techniques that are used within the Nepalese context. There are also various temples which people can come and look at. There is art healing. So there is sacred art which is in every part of Nepal. So people can come and encounter some of these things, which are mandalas, which are Tibetan tankas, and some of them are called Nepali pawas. So there are various things that people could come and enjoy in terms of spirituality in Nepal.
And something that Nepal is known for the adventure aspect, right? I mean, that's yes. Everest and climbing. You mentioned some of that before. So then, how do you get that into the consciousness of the tour, the travel industry? I mean, I guess this is a question for any of our panelists. how then does Nepal position that, where you're not like, you have to really combat against yourself, and you're trying to say, hey, we have adventure and we still have spirituality and wellness. So
Yes.
This is an open question for any guys.
I think one of the things that Nepal needs to do is rebrand itself in terms of its spirituality. Historically, Nepal has always been known as the land of spirituality and wellness. We can look at the history from around 4th or 6th century when Faihan and Zhuangzan came to Nepal, and they described Nepal as a place of liberation. And later on in 9th century, when Indian travelers came to Nepal, this is the land which is known for its spiritual practices. I think that part of our approach to market ourselves in the world has been missing. So we have to rebrand ourselves as a spiritual destination. So in terms of trekking, in terms of Mount Everest and all the hiking spots, we can also introduce spiritual practices within those hiking arenas. Like yogic trekking involves people doing yoga and Zen walks and things like that within the forest when they are climbing, different trekking routes. So this all needs to comprise in our branding and marketing effort.
Well, Tasha, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, I know you work a lot with the adventure aspect. What are adventure tourists looking for that as well? I mean, are they looking for that adrenaline rush and that wellness aspect in terms of what they're looking for in a vacation? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, guys. Yes, I think so. And I think Nepal, I think a lot of this has to do with understanding our market segments, right? Because different segments want different things. But almost anybody who comes to Nepal, whether they're looking for it or not, is going to feel that spiritual connection. As Ms. Nandini said, it comes so strongly from the people and the communities. You feel that whether you were looking for it or not. And I think that's also one of the reasons Nepal has this incredible success with repeat visitation, what we don't see in a lot of destinations. So I think we're looking at two things. We're looking at product development, as Adarsha said, is integrating the spiritual element into the adventure products. And that's great because the trends show us that the modern traveler is experience driven and they want that cultural adventure and spiritual and food mix. They want a mix of everything to have a really holistic experience of the destination. So the trends show us that the tourists are asking for this integration of the adventure and the spiritual. And then we have to market that. And I think that's the most challenging thing because I think, the product development is there or can be there and understanding that and the experience is there on the ground, but communicating that to people before they arrive is really a big challenge. You don't want to over deliver. Spirituality is so personal. It means different things to different people. It's a very difficult thing to communicate. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
I think we've talked about this before. Like it's tough to say, oh, you're going to have a spiritual experience, but then that's something that's an individual. So then, I mean, what are some ideas then you would sort of throw out there, right? Because if you promise something like, oh, it's a spiritual experience, that's a personal thing. If I go there and I don't feel that, that's then you've oversold it. So then, is there any suggestions that any of our panelists have and say how then would be the best way of marketing where you're not overselling it? You're saying this is what it is. The spiritual aspect, the transformational aspect, that's a personal thing. Any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one aspect of that is really a deep understanding of the higher order benefits or the emotional benefits that come from going to Nepal, because those might materialize or actualize differently for different people, but ultimately you're all striving to have those emotional benefits. And so I think we can be consistent in communicating those types of benefit, the discovery, the connection, the authenticity. Those are things that people experience differently, but we'll all experience them. So I think it's, from the branding point, is really integrating those feelings, those emotions into the product, into the marketing. I think that's where we see destinations have success.
Adarsha and Nandini, you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just unmuting myself. Thank you so much, Natasha. Thank you, Adisha. I mean, it's wonderful. And, you know, we are really, I am so grateful. And I think, again, I see a higher hand, you know, for this panel. Thank you, Paul, because we have Adisha who's right here on the ground, but he really knows the inner path. And then we have Natasha, who's really showing us the outer part and how to go ahead doing it very correctly. And of course, that's going to be a challenge, because when we talk about spirituality, it is, you know, that's why I emphasized earlier was that when we talk about spirituality, we're not talking religion. Okay, like it's not that you have, you know, follow this or that. So, and getting this message across without, you know, making people feel that we are forcing it on them is going to be, it's going to be the challenge. And we of course need to integrate it into every aspect of the tourism products that we offer. As of today, and of course we are diversifying a lot, coming up with a lot of new products. We need to do that also. So the messaging is going to be really, really important. It has to be subtle but an integral part of the entire storyline. And there we will be knocking on your doors, Pata, as usual, and Natasha to help us out in that. Thank you. Right.
Darshan, you wanted to add something? I saw you unmute yourself.
Yes, please. One thing that I think we need to address is, you know, what do we mean, you know, when we say spirituality? Does it mean consciousness? Does it mean soul? Is it inner psychological experiences? Some of that experience that people can have in Nepal, you know, it involves all of those aspects. It involves physical experiences which can be given by trekkings, and emotional experiences which people might have in different temples without people explaining anything. There might be psychological unfoldment when people come to our rituals and festivals, because this is the country of Tantra. And spiritual experiences, there might be personal reasons for everyone who comes to visit Nepal. So I think we need to look at the spiritual aspect in a dynamic way, in a sense that we can have a holistic approach to understand wellness and rejuvenation and spirituality after this COVID situation.
And another question I want to ask of all of them is, how does then, you know, you have a lot of people sort of moving towards this idea of wellness or spiritual tourism, right? I mean, I think earlier this week when we had Thailand here, that of course they were doing, they had talked about the body and mind and wellness as well. India is always talking about wellness. How then do you differentiate your products compared to others then? What is that unique, or what is that unique aspect? And then how then do you then put that out there? I see Nandini or nodding her head first, or
yes.
Oh,
okay.
Either one.
Okay, you go. After
right.
you.
Darshan, yeah.
So I think, you know, as you said, there are many countries that are talking about wellness, India and Thailand. And one of the things that we need to understand about Nepal is our unique, you know, selling proposition that we can offer to the world. We are a country of mountains, we're a country of nature, we are a country of experience of temples. When for the first time Europeans came to Nepal, we were defined as a country of monkeys and temples, because they were so abundant. So we have to bring into these aspects of Nepal that is not well known. So once we present it, you know, we would have our own uniqueness that we can offer in terms of wellness and spirituality. Yes.
Yes, Miss Nandini.
Yeah, I totally agree with Adarsha, and you know, because see in Nepal, though we are pretty small, but then our tourism is very, very multifaceted. So I mean, you have, when you talk about adventure, you have up to extreme adventure. So you can really go to the highs and you can go to the lows, and then of course we have nature, we have cultural aspects, and again, of course, we know we have competitors in if you talk about spa and wellness and probably meditation, and as India, of course, and Thailand, and a lot of other countries. But then we, again, with the kind of products that we offer, especially if you go into hard and soft, let's say adventure products beyond the limits of the mountain, this is where we could really combine, combine both spirituality and healing, along with actually having a physical kind of a physical endurance program, like a trek or a hike or whatever. And and this has been quite popular, because I remember even way back in about 30 years back, when I just started off in tourism, I used to know groups that used to come in from Germany and from Europe, who used to go out in the mountains from from various monasteries to monasteries. They used to be under about a week long, or maybe about 2 or 3 weeks, and they used to go and actually stay and meditate, and before they move, do yoga, and before they move on to the next one. So this is something that has been already it has been there, but we need to now sort of repackage it and promote it very much more actively, because that's what people are. We are already talking about the new normal. We're talking about transformative tourism. We're also talking about people looking to heal themselves, maybe in major and minor ways, but everybody's looking for a change. And I think, all of us would be looking in that direction.
Yeah, just to add to that, I fully agree with the fellow panelists that in this area, Nepal has so much credibility and so much authenticity, which of course the other destinations have as well. But that, sometimes other destinations are trying to jump on this trend of transformation or spiritual tourism, and they do not have it authentically, this long history as Ms. Nandini describes. And so Nepal has that, and other destinations might be trying to create that, but you have that. So that's like, an asset that is there, that is unique, that is long standing. But I think when it comes to competition, one thing that's really important is a deep, deep understanding of the competition. What are they doing? How are they saying it? Are they trying to have ownership over some of the things that we think we do best? How do we position vis-a-vis the competition is so important. And I feel oftentimes we forget to take a really solid look at the competition, because we can only position ourselves really well when we understand how we're positioned vis-a-vis our competition. And when we're targeting international markets, an international tourist from, say, Canada is not saying necessarily, Nepal or India. They're saying Nepal or Peru. And so our competition is global, and we really need to consider that when we look at trying to position ourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha. Really great. Really great. So then what other challenges, what other challenges then do you foresee sort of ahead of you as you go towards this? I mean, what challenges do you see, Natasha, that Nepal would have to sort of look at first then, besides the marketing aspects?
Well, I don't want to state the obvious with the COVID, but I think that, obviously this is a major challenge, and that one huge opportunity is saying we have this amazing segment, and we've gone all the way in adapting this for the situation. And I think spiritual tourism and wellness tourism, there might be a lot of adjustments that have to maybe made in the product delivery to make it for this new age. And so that, I think, is going to be a competitive advantage and an opportunity. I think, sorry, I know you asked about challenges, but I've got opportunities on the brain here. And I think another opportunity I want to mention, is like a couple other things that we're seeing coming out of the pandemic. This sort of this need to rejuvenate, this need to transform, this need to connect. I love the way Ms. Nandini started her presentation with the fact that we were already disconnected. It's just become so much more obvious. These are trends that are going to come to light during the pandemic, immediately after, but they're not going to go away, right? This is actually going to change. Even when we can fly like we did in the past, these desires are going to stay with us. We're going to realize the value of them. And so planning, not just for the short term, but for the long term of this, I think is the opportunity. But just to answer Paul's question, I do think the biggest challenge is in the product delivery, in terms of the over-promising and under-delivering, and having consistency amongst product and suppliers. This is a big challenge that every destination faces. Thank you.
What kind of challenges do you guys, Nandini or Darshan, what kind of challenges or opportunities do you see on the ground there in Nepal?
Right. And thanks, and I totally agree with Natasha that the biggest challenge is COVID-19, and how we just don't know when it's going to go away, if it's going to go away, and how we learn to cope and survive. But then I think at this point we have all realized that this is something we have to learn to live with, like we have learned to live with so many other things. And and we are at this point, and the reason I think we're already, we have had this, series of discussions, and Pata has been, wonderful and, kind enough to sort of showcase various destinations, because we are already moving on. So we are all in the process of healing, let's say, in a way, right? But the challenges are there because tourism has changed, so we can no longer look at mass tourism. We can, no longer just decide. We can no longer do things the way we used to. Okay, and again, and I think the very important point Natasha made was over-promising and under-delivering. And that's where we will really need to go back to the drawing board and really, work out things that are possible. Okay, and things that are deliverable. And that's why we need to sit with the trade, because already we know we are looking at far, far, far fewer numbers. We are really not looking at mass for a long time. So we really need to, and so it's just these few people who are going to come, experience it, and go back and be the word of mouth, be our ambassadors. So we have to work doubly hard. Now, coming with COVID, because the whole, this whole sort of segment went around about this healing and rejuvenation in the times of COVID. The health and sanitation protocols are, of course, that is our Bible already. The good thing about I think COVID is because it is something that is in a way sort of controllable by the SMS, what I said is the guru mantra, okay, the social distancing, the mask, and the sanitizers. So a lot of sort of not sort of getting that, unless it's really bad luck or whatever, is literally that control literally lies with you. So we are already in a good place there. So we do not really need monitors with a whip saying that, okay, stay away, do that, because that is going to be automatic, whether it is a visitor, whether it is a service provider. Okay, so I think in the future we are looking at smaller numbers and really sort of repackaging our products in a much more unique and a much more meaningful way. So I think that's the way we will have to go. So the challenges are really many, not only for Nepal, but all of us are on the same boat. Yeah.
Did you want to add something, Mr. Darsha?
Yes, please. I completely agree with Ms. Natasha and Nandini ma'am. I think one of the things that we can think about in this situation is that now we have an opportunity to rethink tourism and how we can deliver our services and products better to the world. How can we build a resilient tourism industry, and what is the ecosystem that is needed for our tourism industry to grow? Because right now, our small and medium scale industries are most impacted by COVID situation. So after this situation, how do we bring back travelers' confidence, at the same time entrepreneurial confidence? So all of this would need to be addressed, and I think we would also need some structural transformation so that we can cope with this, and we can reinitiate this faster. Otherwise, we would have some economic problems. So there are problems that are under our control, which might need attention. And there are, COVID, we don't know when this will end. So we would have to prepare various scenarios to deal with this.
Thanks. From what Ms. Mandini said, I assume challenges then, as you're focusing on more on quality over quantity, then one of the challenges, I guess, is working with your stakeholders, right? I mean, at this point, when travel opens up, and this is probably going to happen with a lot of destinations as they look to looking at the same, they're probably looking at the same thing, quantity over quality, but on the private sector, they're looking to sort of get their money back, right? They're going to want that quantity. They're going to want, let's say, hotels. They're going to want heads in beds. They're going to want that number. Their reserves are filled. So how then do you work with those stakeholders to get that across? Especially to say, okay, well, we're going to focus on wellness. We're going to focus on spirituality. Buy into that instead of saying, oh no, let's take the easy route and go with just adventure or go with something more commercially.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. That's a really good question, because when I said that we're not looking at big numbers, this does not mean that we're not limiting the numbers, but they're looking at it very realistically. For the next year or a year and a half at least. If I mean, I don't think any destination is really, if you're especially looking at long haul tourists, we are not going to be looking at big number of arrivals. Okay, we are hoping they will grow. So, what we really need to focus on is on sort of repackaging of products so that more people are sort of drawn to visit Nepal. And again, rejuvenation and wellness is going to be, it's going to be a winner. But again, we just cannot do rejuvenation and thing packages only. It has to be packaged along, beautifully packaged along with our adventure tours, our culture tours, our nature tours, all the niche markets we are looking at. It has to be a very dominant feature of that. And again, since we are, we have been focusing on the industry in Nepal. I mean, they're really going through a bad time, like everybody else. Hotels are empty. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of travel agencies, trekking agencies, rafting agencies, and they have really had nothing much to do. And so we are working at revival and recovery packaging for them. We're looking at trainings. We are working up, and luckily we have managed to garner the support of some of the major INGOs for trainings and for alternate occupations for them. So we are slowly getting there, but it is really difficult. And the trade and being the NTO, we are literally the bridge between the government and the private sector, and we are all really working very, very closely with that. And everybody understands that we do have limited resources, whether it's the government, it's the private sector, it's the NTB. So everybody's just trying to keep their head above water at this point. But again, looking at markets per se, we would be looking at the domestic market first to start off with. Once we start reopening up and the lockdown is over, but then we are looking at a staggered start. We'll be focusing on the domestic market and then going on to the regional markets like India, China, the Middle East, and of course all the Buddhist markets once the Gautama Buddha Airport starts off in Lumbini in a couple of months. So we will be looking at the regional markets. And of course, all the time we would be, via digital marketing, looking at the long haul markets, because we want Nepal to be top of the mind recall. So there would be enough focus, and marketing there would obviously start when there is more movement globally of tourists all over the world. So it's going to be a step-by-step approach.
You guys have anything? You guys, the other panelists want anything to add?
I would just add, I mean, I fully agree with you. I think that, we're all going to see this expand in a concentric circle away, right? So it makes sense. You start with domestic, and I understand, Paul, what you're saying. The private sector, they want to get back to fill their heads in beds and so forth. And I think there is this other opportunity that I know you guys are working on, but I always feel it as a tourist in Nepal is like, this is a good deal. I always feel like I'm happy to pay the price I pay in Nepal, but I would pay double. And so sometimes I feel like also there's an opportunity to make up for those numbers in value. And I feel like the experience in Nepal always, for me as a tourist, over delivers. It's always amazing. The views are always beautiful. The food's always good. The people are always amazing. I would pay double or triple. So I think there's an opportunity there as well.
Thank you, Natasha. I mean, thank you so much for making that $1 million statement. Thank you. Yes, we are known as a good value for money destination, and we have discussed pricing in several global webinars over the year. Over the last few weeks, sorry. And I, for one, very clearly believe that the entire pricing system is going to go higher. I mentioned it, Paul, a few days back also, because of the new norms that we live in. We cannot afford to sell our destination really the same price, because with social distancing in place, with all the new protocols that are there, you're literally allowed to use this half the capacity. A very simple example would be of a tour bus that would fit in 30 tourists at one time, and now you cannot take more than 15 people at a time. So that cost has to be absorbed literally at some level, and it obviously cannot be always a service provider. So it is going to move on to the clientele. So the pricing is going to go up till it kind of reaches a plateau, and when things are, when things start sort of settling down, when COVID sort of starts going away, then I think the price war will start. But at this point, yes, everything is going to be more expensive, and I don't think anybody could really challenge me on that point, no matter how competitively we want to sell our countries.
I just want to also take this opportunity just to remind all our attendees that you can also submit questions using the Q&A. I think we have a lot of passionate people watching this on Facebook, so feel free to also comment on Facebook. We can also try to answer some of those questions we got on Facebook as well. Mr. Darsh, did you want to add anything to that as well, or?
Well, I just wanted to say, I think we have understood that this is not a one size fit all situation. There is no one solution to this. So we would have to take collaborative approaches by understanding our private sectors, our public sectors, and within the sectors, what are the stakeholders who can contribute in helping solve this problem and helping make things clearer. How does the information flow within the system? So all of these things of communicating about the new rules, communicating about the health requirements, and communicating our industry about what will be the significant changes that would need to be made within the business would also be important to recover quickly. Yes.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, also, if you guys have any questions of the other panelists, feel free to ask them. Happy, as I said, it's a lively discussion, so happy to take that. And I'm also encouraging all of our attendees to send questions as well. Let's move to the idea of hygiene, right? Hygiene will be, of course, one of the big things, right? And then when you talk about wellness, that there's an extra level of hygiene needed. So what steps are already being taken? And then how then do you communicate? Are you going to start communicating that to your customers and the travelers?
Right. I think, may I take that question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. We had, in fact, when the lockdown was announced, we spent a lot of time coming up with health, hygiene, and sanitation protocols for the entire travel trade industry, covering them right from arriving till departure, and every segment of the tour, whether they were on tour, whether it's the vehicle, whether it's hotels, rafting, trekking. So we have come out with operational guidelines, which is posted on our website. And the important thing we did was, because the end user was going to be the travel trade. Okay, so we did not want to put up some high-sounding, very technical document that they would not be comfortable using with, or they would find difficulty in using. So we sort of made a shell and we shared it out with the entire travel trade, the industry professionals in Nepal, and we took, and of course we did refer whatever UNWTO and WHO and our health ministry here had. That that was the baseline, and we took feedback from the trade, and then we have really come up with a really nice and compact book, which you could see on our website, welcomenepal.com. If you go into the NTB website, it's there for everybody. And that has been very well accepted by the trade. And so that is literally going to be the guiding manual to restart tourism. Now that's on one side. So that tells you how you could keep yourself, your team, and your clients safe and healthy. Okay, and the acceptance has been really good. And right now we are preparing to impart training programs across pan-Nepal so that people understand how to use it. The other thing also I would like to emphasize at this, is that it was just an operational guidance manual on health and hygiene protocols. But then there is a lot of focus, and Nepal has always been conscious of. We have had challenges, but we try our best on sustainability and environmental management. Okay, and so while discussing, we thought this would be, yes, the right chance to put in these little green tips into every travel agent, into every vehicle operator, into the hotels, about small little steps they could do to promote sustainability and to prevent pollution and conservation of the environment. So if Natasha, if you have time, just log into our website. I will send you the the exact name, and you just go through, because every segment has got something called green tips. Okay, and so it had on how you could sort of or what you could do to make the whole globe, your small little steps to make the whole globe a lot greener. The reason we put in here, we did get comments that, oh my God, you're talking about health and hygiene protocols. Why are you putting in environmental friendly tips? But then we were so sure that people are going to read this document very, very carefully, because their health and safety lies therein. So, so we would just plant these little green ideas, and it would just sort of stay in their mind. So yeah, so that is, so we are doing that. And we also have very strict, monitoring, because it has to be implemented and monitored. So the government of Nepal is setting up these monitoring sort of teams that is going to ensure that everybody in the trade and the community, they are first of all, they're trained, they receive the orientation, and then they follow the guidelines. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Since Paul asked, do you have any questions? Natasha, I don't have a question. I have a big request to you. I read it. Yeah. It is. Thank you so much for all the wonderful, tips you gave us. And obviously with your experience and your knowledge, I think we're going to come knocking on your door also to help us come up with, with the new packaging, and how we could really balance out what Nepal is already selling, and how we could bring in the spiritual, the rejuvenation angle in a very, very nice and a very kind of coherent way together. Thanks.
Yeah, one thing I was sort of interested in is comment was, I don't know, maybe wondering if the two of you know, or the three of you know, if any destination is actually marketing spiritual tourism using the word spiritual. We hear wellness, we hear yoga, we hear transformational a lot, but I don't know that I've seen spiritual. Have you guys?
No, not really. That's why of course, we would be using wellness, we would be using transformative. We use a lot of transformative tourism. But that's why I always emphasize that when I say spiritual, I don't mean spiritual as in religion. Yeah.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we're going to drop that absolutely. Okay.
It's interesting. I don't think so. It could be It could be something to own. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a young Adarsha along with us. I just met him a few months back, and because they are really doing fantastic stuff, and because they have this meditation center, and where they also deal with corporate groups and working on stress and kids with ADHD, and so I'm really glad that he could join us on this on our panel today.
I was actually interested in something he said about art healing. I was like, what is art healing? But it's something I just thought of when during the discussion, is that there's a lot to communicate in this, if what Nepal's plans is, or what a lot of people's plans are as they move forward, is that there's a lot of communication that has to happen as we start to go recovery. I mean, you're going to have to communicate your hygiene and safety, but then, for someone like Nepal, you have to communicate you still have your adventure, then you have your wellness, and you have your hygiene. Are you afraid of losing messaging? Or then how then do you balance that? I mean, I guess that'd be a question for Natasha. How would you balance all that messaging? Because usually try to, anytime there's communication, you try to just reduce the amount of noise you're sending out, messaging. You focus on one thing, but nowadays you have to you're trying to say a lot of things at once. You're trying to say, well, we're clean, but we're also regenerative and transformative, but we're also got adventure. It's like you might have lost what you're trying to target. So yeah.
Look, as a very chatty person myself, I connect with that problem on a deep level. You have so much to say. How do you say it? And I think this goes back to what a lot of our issues go back to, is understanding our target segments, understanding what motivates them, what barriers they have, and then constructing messages that are targeted exactly to them. So for example, myself, I care about it. I want to go do adventure, and I want a great guide. Having a great guide is the most important thing to me on holiday, but I also want to know how that company is going to take COVID precautions. So those are the two most important things to me, and any message that's directed at me should have those two things. Somebody who's older is going to have different concerns. So I think it's really about understanding who you're talking to. And what that means is, like you said, Paul, reducing the amount of messages, but having, well, how am I going to say this? Having more messages. So not like one big generic message, but very many succinct, targeted messages, I think is the way to go. And with online, tools and platforms, we can do that. We can target. So we should. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you.
You guys have anything to add to that, Darsha or Nandini?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you. Right.
I would like to add something. Immediately after the COVID, we right now we have a big mental health issue in the world. So Nepal can offer some of the healing practices which are already practiced within Nepal to the world. Especially when we are facing psychological problems of being inside room and being isolated and things of that sort. Nepal has a good opportunity, and I think we can tap into that, and we can market that in the first phase. The next thing is that we already have some of the strategies regarding the trails of spiritual practices, like Lumbini to Tibet to different parts of Asia, which is called the Guru Padmasambhava trail. So this and then there is Asoka trail, and there are various trails of spiritual practices and well-being and health that is in Nepal that could be marketed first when we are dealing with the COVID situation. And I think that is something that we need to be aware about.
Yeah, I think that the idea of sort of marketing and moving towards this wellness, it actually provides a big opportunity for Nepal. I mean,
Yes.
Everyone knows Everest. They all go to Everest. This provides an opportunity to spread that to other destinations in the country, whether it's Lupini or Pokhara or Lhotse Hills or that. So I guess there is a master plan in that regard. What areas then is the focus if we're talking about the spirituality and rejuvenation? Have you guys are looking at certain areas there of would then be part of that strategy going forward in terms of the long-term outlook for Nepal?
We already have some of the things that we have been doing that needs more attention, like healing yogic practices and meditation practices. We have monasteries, we have temples that already takes care of it. We have art segment, we were talking about art healing, where there are many Thangka centers where people internationally come to learn this art and to have some, unfoldment within themselves, inner unfoldment. There are some adventure tourism that is connected with spirituality, especially within the tantric aspect, which are jatras and which gives a certain adrenaline rush. So we could take into consideration these things and approach the world of what we are truly unique in, and which is already established in Nepal.
Right.
And it's a question then to Natasha. So our adventure tourists then, I don't know if I did ask this already, but are adventure tourists looking for that? Are they looking for that the adrenaline rush ends then like the body and the mind and soul, but the wellness part as well? Will they
Yeah. We did talk about this a little at the beginning
that?
of the we did talk about this a little bit at the beginning of the session, and the answer is a firm yes. There's very recent research from the Adventure Travel Trade Association, which it shows this interesting shift. And so the question is about what motivates adventure travelers. And when they did this study 10 years ago, what motivated adventure travelers were, risk, discovery, exploration, but much harder sort of things. Fast forward 10 years to 2020, the motivation is about mental health benefits. It's about transformation. It's about space and nature, and discovery and exploration and risk are all there, but it's a much more complex picture of what the modern adventure traveler wants. And what they want is this mix that, that we're talking about here today. So yes, a firm yes, the research backs this up. I think probably our own experience backs it up. So it's very exciting and encouraging because this is a much more responsible, sustainable way to travel as well.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to supplement that. And yes, because normally when you think of adventure or a high action activity, you just think that they totally ignore the spiritual aspect of it. But no, in Nepal it really works. It kind of goes hand in hand, and you'd be sort of it'll be interesting to know that all the major expeditions, whether it's Mount Everest or any other of the high peaks that they're conquering, before they do that, and they're all sort of helped and led by the Sherpas, the backup crew, and before, at the start of each expedition, they actually have a ceremony. It's a religious ceremony that they have to invoke the spirits of the gods and the blessings and also the protection. So already, people who are hardcore adventurers, their mindset is always like they already have this kind of aura of, let's say, it's a kind of aura that they are being protected. So no matter what activity you're following, it is always this aspect is the spiritual aspect is very prevalent in Nepal. And like I said earlier, was many many groups came in, and the whole trek was entire about visiting monastery to monastery and sort of learning the culture and literally immersing themselves in that aura of goodness and happiness. So in Nepal, I think it's a little different because it does, and even when you're going on treks, every time you have a gompa or a monastery, the trekkers, the visitors do always stop by and in their own way say this little prayer. So in a way, we're lucky that this is already a part of the whole.
Yeah.
So we just need to sort of repackage it, in a nicer way. Yeah. Yes, Paul.
Oh, no, it's great. We're just commenting here. You always have some great insights into things, and we enjoy having you here. You guys have any questions for each other? I mean, we're getting close to the end of our session. If you guys have any questions, I don't know if the attendees had any questions. Nothing's come up, but it's your chance, attendees, to send in your questions. Any questions that you guys want to ask each other? Natasha, Adarsha?
One of the questions that
Natasha in Nepal after things settle down.
Anytime.
Adarsha, yes, go ahead.
One of the questions that I would like to ask is, we have this perception about Nepal, in terms of adventure trekking, tourism, and that sort of stuff. But we also have, spiritual tourism happening from China, Southeast Asia, India, especially for spirituality and for festivals and things like that. So now, as we are coming out of it, how do you think we could, unite this together and present it to the world?
Well, I think Natasha had mentioned a bit about that's the challenge, right? But I mean, do you want to?
I think I not to sort of sound like a broken record, I'm sorry, but I think that it kind of does just go back to that segmentation. I think Indian tourists, who are crossing over land to do a pilgrimage, they want something different. They're looking for something different. Their motivation is different. Their fears are different. Their amount of money they're going to pay is different. It's just a different market. And I don't know that we want to bridge it all together. I think we want to, we don't want to be everything to everyone, but Nepal is so complex and has so many different offerings. There are some tourists, and I think for me, the market I know best is sort of the Western adventure tourist that wants this mix. But at the same time, they want a hot shower, so it's not super rustic. And then there's this very spiritual, I think, segment that you're speaking of that you would know much more about than I do. But I think we need to keep the messaging and the products a little bit separate to be successful, because mixing them, I think we would confuse things.
Actually, a pretty clever question then for all of it. So I guess moving forward, then we're going to see more of you're focusing more on niches and very segmented groups, right? You're just going to be focused down instead of I guess you brought up before, instead of the mass tourism. It's really now, it's going to take a lot more work than to sort of look at every single market, really segment it down to a very small thing, and then have a specific message for that market segment. I guess that's what we're sort of getting towards, and say, okay, if we're going to do wellness, then that's what we're going to focus on, and that's the maybe that in the West, and this particular message goes out to someone in China. Is that? I guess you guys all agree, because you all nod your head. So yes, I guess that's how we will be moving forward. So I guess we're close to the end here. So I'll let you guys all leave with a few brief words from each of you. If you guys have any last words that you want to say about I guess rejuvenation, spiritual tourism. As we're coming out of COVID-19, or hopefully out of COVID-19, and then how and your thoughts on that as we sort of end this session here.
Yeah, something to go first.
Yeah, Natasha, you
sure.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, I really enjoyed this session. Thank you so much. And I think for me, the thing that stands out is the spiritual element. It's not something Nepal sells. It's something Nepal is, as we see it every day when you walk through the streets of Nepal. It's so deeply there within the people. And for me, this is so unique and so competitive. So I think you're going to see a lot of success in this segment. And as we come out of COVID-19, I know it's a really challenging time for everybody, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and there is nobody more innovative in the world than folks in the tourism industry. So I know that it might be a bit of a long haul, but with discussions like this and ideas like the one we've shared, we're going to come out of it, hopefully with a little bit more reset, as Adarsha said, and smarter than before. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Natasha. Adarsha? Any last words? Anything you want to leave the audience with as we wrap up the session?
One thing that I would like to say is that in Nepal, there is challenges and we are going through this crisis, but everyone is optimistic and they are looking for a better future. So we will come out of this stronger, we will come out of this more resilient, and we will work collaboratively and together to, to bring the new sustainable tourism practices in Nepal. And everyone is, working towards it. So I feel very optimistic, and I would like to share this message with the world.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nandini, you get the last words from our panelists here.
Last, hopefully not the least one.
None.
Well, I would really thank you and Pata, and I think it was such an interesting and a really, really, I felt so enlightened. Hearing especially from Natasha and, that sort of perspective and how we should prepare ourselves and we sort of don't overpromise and underdeliver. The Nepalese tourism industry, like everybody else, is going through hard times. But then again, we Nepalese are really resilient. We have come out through many man-made and natural disasters in the last few decades, and we have sort of come up again, and we are very, very hopeful that we would be also moving on strongly post this COVID era, and we are working closely together both with the trade and with the government, and we are working hard at coming up at diversifying the product palette, so that people have more to look forward to. And we are really trying to take the mountains only or the adventure only image that Nepal normally has, is what you think of. So we are working on a new palette of new products, and of course, again, rejuvenation, wellness, and transformative tourism is going to be very high on the list. And very subtly, we would be sort of packaging both together, no matter which segment of tourism we're talking about, because that is something a tourist of the future is going to, look for in a holiday vacation, but what they are really, how it's going to change them and from inside also, and how it's going to literally how this visit is going to comfort them. So that's what our focus is going to be. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today.
Thank you, Ms. Nandini. Thank you. I know this is the second time this week that we've spoken, but thank you so much. You're always been a pleasure to speak with and have on the webinar. And thank you to Natasha and Adarsha. It was there was some really good insights from everybody, and it's great to hear, what Adarsha said, that it really takes all of us to work together in unison and coordinated approach to recover, right? This isn't, nobody can do it alone as we try to get out of something like COVID-19. So thank you so much. I do invite all of our panelists, if you want to join us, we have a networking session afterwards. So maybe Natasha and Nandini can talk some more if you guys wanted to. And this is also for all the attendees. We have a virtual coffee break. It's sponsored by our good friends at Visa. The link is in the chat. I know Mario will be there. I know some of our staff will be there. So hopefully some of our speakers will be there. And Hopefully some of our attendees will be there. So please do join us. Again, thank you to Natasha, Adarsha, and Nandini. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, bye.
So I'll just quickly wrap up here before we close this all together. I'll say goodbye to our panelists, and you guys can all turn your audio video off. And I'll just do a quick wrap up here. Okay, so once again, thank you to our speakers, and thank you to the Nepal Tourism Board, our destination partner for this week, under the theme of well-being. Of course, thank you to all of our sponsors, and most importantly, thank you to people who are attending, not just here in the webinar, but actually there's a lot more people actually viewing it on our Facebook live stream. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. As I mentioned before, we do have a virtual coffee break sponsored by our good friends at Visa. It's right after the session at 3:30 in just a few minutes. The link is in the chat. I think we've also shared it on our Facebook page, so anybody can join. Come in, you know, expand your network or solidify previous relationships, talk about what's going on in the world, and how we can sort of help and support each other recover as we look forward towards the opening of borders and the restarting of travel and tourism. That's from 3:30 to 4. Later this afternoon, we have a live experience, plunge into the Kazakhstan culture of nomads. This is with our good friends at Kazakh Tourism as well as Skyway. This is looks like it's going to be a great session. I will be here with my colleague from the membership team hosting that session. We'll be joined by a couple of our friends in Kazakh Tourism. So please do join us. It really is a live experience. We'll be looking at some aspects of Kazakh culture. And with that, that is the end of today's session. If you have any questions about today's panel, about any of the other sessions we've had that's passed, or what's coming up next tomorrow or next week, you can contact me. My email is very easy. It's paul@pada.org. Visit our website, or if you want to know more about the Dream to Travel Festival, just go to dreamtotravel.pada.org. Thank you again, and I will see you at the coffee break. Take care.